As always, before we begin, take a minute wherever you are to turn off anything that might distract you or others from this wonderful time that we have together. If you're joining on Facebook or YouTube, you can click on the icon for closed captioning, which I find very helpful many times. And now, to begin, it's my pleasure to welcome Jean Corbin and John Talon to lead us in our opening song, In This Very Room. And wherever you are is this very room for the song. So please stand if you're able and join in.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for all of us. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough faith and quite enough power to set each life abloom. For Spirit, yes, Spirit is in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough faith and quite enough power to set each life abloom. For Spirit, yes, Spirit is in this very room.
Let's thank Jean Corbin for being our musical inspiration today, and welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living. Some of you may recognize me, some of you won't. I'm Reverend Molly Steele. We're grateful to have everyone joining us, whether you're here in the room, this mighty crowd of people in the room, or if you're joining us online now or later. So together, wherever we are, whenever we are, let's transform our world with the power of love in action. It takes a village, and we're grateful for the many staff and volunteers who are love in action today. Our tech team, our greeters, our food angels, the Spirit-Bound bookstore staff, and our musical inspiration, among many others. And now, although most of our spiritual practitioners are at the community retreat today, we do have a couple of people serving us today. Carmela is holding our service in High Watch, in consciousness and prayer. And Marilyn O'Leary, who is just up here, is opening and closing our celebration with prayer. She'll anchor us in our vision and mission statements, and she'll share the reading for the day. Now, ordinarily, there are practitioners available to offer prayer treatments after service. Might be best to fill out a form and ask for prayer during the week, but if you really need to sit with somebody today, Carmela and Marilyn are available. Now, here at the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living, we're anchored in the principles of science of mind and new thought, ageless wisdom. What we teach can be distilled down into 4 basic concepts. Excuse me. Sorry about that, I forgot to switch the slide. We believe that there is only one power in the universe that is known by many names. We believe that thought is creative, so we take care of what's in our mind and keep going back to the spiritual truth. There's only one power. We don't blame ourselves or beat ourselves up for thoughts that don't serve us. We simply replace them with thoughts that affirm our life. We believe that everything in our life is either an expression of love or a call for love. No exceptions, right? No exceptions. Sometimes calls for love can look very clumsy and even hurtful. We maintain that they are calls for love nonetheless. And finally, we believe that each one of us is whole, perfect, and complete just as we are. While there may be many thoughts in our behaviors you want to let go of, there's nothing you need to add. And with that, We're so grateful that each one of you has chosen to be part of today's celebration. Whether you're in person, online, watching live, or later, this time together is special because of you. We want to especially welcome those who are with us for the second time. We're grateful for everyone who finds something of value in our services. And are there any people joining us for the first time today? In person? Maybe not. For those of you joining online for the first time, please be sure to use the chat and let us know who you are. You can also go to our website and help us connect with you. So let's join in blessing each other. This is a tradition. Rub your hands together to get the love, the energy flowing from your heart out to your hands. We outstretch our hands and we invite you to simply receive. You can repeat after me. We see you.
We see you.
We know who you really are.
We know who you really are.
You are a unique emanation of spirit.
You are a unique emanation of spirit.
We love you.
We love you.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
And we thank God for you.
And we thank God for you.
Welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living.
Welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living.
Thank you. And now Marilyn will join me on stage and read our vision and mission statements.
The vision today, and always, is transforming our world with the power of love and action. And our mission is loving all creation through spiritual growth and service, always staying true to our higher self. For the readings today, I've chosen readings again from The Science of Mind, which I cannot recommend enough. It's a wonderful magazine. And these are both by Ernest Holmes. The last one has a comment by Jesse Jennings. So the first one is from yesterday, A Song to Sing. For all that has been, thanks. For all that shall be, yes. And that's Dag Hammarskjöld's. All this theory that we are here to be tested, all this theory that we are here to be tested to see if we are worthy to endure life is just so much nonsense. We are here for the delight of whatever it was that created us, just as our whole life exists for the expression of our soul. What else could it be for? Life is made to live. A song is made to sing, and a dance to dance. We have to be glad. We have to be happy. Now we have a freedom to have all these things that belong to the nature of God. We have freedom to love. What is to stop me from loving you? Nothing but myself. It wouldn't be any of my business whether you love me, but if I loved you enough, you would. What is to stop me from being glad? It won't hurt anybody. It won't save anybody for me to be sad. And that's from Ideas of Power. And this next one is from today's reading, and it's called Unbreakable. And this is the inspiration for it. Hope is like a road in the country. There was never a road, but when many people walk on it, the road comes into existence. And I'd like you to compare this reading today with yesterday's reading, because we've been talking about paradox. Infinite in its possibility, ever ready to respond, the creative spirit awaits our recognition. We must learn to have faith, to walk in the light. Wherever people meet together for prayer and spiritual communion, a field of faith is created that reacts on everyone who enters it. An atmosphere of reality has been recognized. A new vibratory law has been set in motion. It is easy to break one twig, but if we bind many twigs together, they become unbreakable. In group consciousness, the individual faith of each member is strengthened through union with all the others. In union there is strength. is just as true in our mental life as in the body of our affairs. And that's it. Thank you. And after our reading, I love those readings today. I hope you guys liked them too. I think
beautiful.
they're wonderful. We're going to have some more music by Gene Corbin, and after that, we're going to have a wonderful talk by Reverend Molly, who's with us this morning, and we're so glad to have her. And I'm going to introduce her after the song. Thank you. Gene.
Yesterday a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. Fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over clear frozen streams. Words like, when you're older, must appease him, and promises of someday make his dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. I had to get that line right. Words like, when you're older, must appease him, and promises of someday make his dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now. Cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. And they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet to slow the circles down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. You can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. So the years spin by, and now the boy is 20, though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true. there'll be new dreams, maybe better dreams and plenty. Before the last revolving year is through, and the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game.
Thank you, Jean and John. That was absolutely wonderful. Well, we're blessed this morning to have Reverend Molly with us to give her first talk in Albuquerque. Reverend Molly Steele has been studying New Thought and related teachings since her teens, when she started following in the footsteps of her father, a progressive psychiatrist and spiritual seeker. For over 20 years, she attended Center for Spiritual Awakening in Pacific Grove, California. Molly was ordained as a minister of religious science in March of 2022 through the Emerson Institute, and is close to completing a doctorate in spiritual studies. Great. She and her husband, John Talon, moved to Albuquerque last October. Let's give a warm welcome to Reverend Molly.
Okay, is that okay? You may be able to tell that things are a little bit different today. Most of the congregation, not most, a large part. Trying to find my spot. Many people in the congregation are at our community retreat today, and we're sure they're having a great time. And so the stage is set up a little different, and I'd like to also explain why I said I was going to be talking about Taoism and Buddhism. If this is a religious science center, what's the deal? So I'm going to answer both of those questions by acknowledging Dr. Bill Little. He's the minister at the center. John and I attended him in California, and he was the teacher for my ministerial training. He used PowerPoints in his talks, and I got used to them. Now, sometimes we can hear things over and over, but when we hear it in a different way, and sometimes when we see it, it becomes clearer. It congeals. And now I like reading books about how things work, but the words only go so far. When you flip the page and see a drawing or a picture, sometimes things make a lot more sense. And now as to Taoism and Hinduism, Dr. Bill taught religious science, but he also taught us many of the teachings that Ernest Holmes studied and incorporated into the science of mind. The Western teachings often have stories and parables. Eastern teachings, though, sometimes use diagrams, and we're going to use two of them today. They're both circles. And so the circle game is what we're going to be looking into. And now Dr. Bill is going to be turning 80 in a couple of weeks. He's slowing down after running a church continuously for over 40 years. That's pretty impressive. I want to express my deep gratitude and acknowledge his life's work. So thank you, Dr. Bill. I also want to thank Reverend Gill for trusting me and asking me to step in while everybody's at the community retreat. And you're going to have to forgive me as I remember how to do the PowerPoint and talking at the same time. The title of my talk today is Abiding Peacefully in Paradox. And now here's a definition of paradox. And by the way, paradox is the theme for the month of October in all of the Centers for Spiritual Living. Paradox is something that may be true, but seems impossible or difficult to understand because it contains two opposite facts or characteristics. Now we're going to start by looking at some wisdom from the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is the fundamental text of Taoism. It's a collection of verses attributed to Lao Tzu that was written down around 500 BC. The verses were passed by oral tradition long before then, and Lao Tzu may have or may not have been a real person. The literal translation is old man. Tao Te Ching literally means the way and its power, but the literal translation doesn't fully grasp the concept. Tao is one of the many names for God, and by God I mean everything we can perceive and everything else. Taoism is based on observations of the natural world and how things fall in and out of balance and harmony. This is a portion of one of the verses from the Tao Te Ching. It's the first concept we'll be working with today. The Tao, or God, is everything, everything beyond our ability to perceive. The world that we perceive in this verse is the One. The Tao gives rise to the One. It's a result of God concentrating from the formless state into form. Now, this is the classic symbol of Taoism. It's the yin-yang symbol, and it illustrates this verse. The symbol, the circle, is the One. That's the concentrated aspect of God. The One gives rise to the Two. The Two means things occur in pairs of opposites. In this symbol, we can't perceive the white without the black, and vice versa. You can't describe up without being able to contrast with down. In the natural world, some of the pairs of opposites are sky and earth, mountains and valleys, day and night, hard and soft, hot and cold, breathing in and breathing out. Now, most spiritual traditions extrapolate from the physical world, the physical concepts, to illustrate spiritual concepts, and this is called metaphysics. Meta means above, and so we're talking about just above the physical level. Some metaphysical pairs of opposites are love and the call for love, giving and receiving, and our inherent divine humanity. What the pairs of opposites do not represent are notions of good and bad or any kind of judgment. Now, this is a famous Taoist story that illustrates the point. When an old farmer's stallion wins a prize at a country show, his neighbor calls round to congratulate him, but the old farmer says, "Who knows what's good and what's bad?" The next day, some thieves come and steal his valuable animal. His neighbor comes to commiserate, but the old man replies, "Who knows what's good and what's bad?" A few days later, the spirited stallion escapes from the thieves and joins a herd of wild mares, leading them back to the farm. The neighbor calls to share in the farmer's joy, but the farmer says, "Who knows what's good and what's bad?" The following day, while trying to break one of the mares, the farmer's son is thrown and fractures his leg. Again, the neighbor calls to commiserate, but the old man's attitude remains the same as before. The following day, the army passes by and forcibly conscripts soldiers for the war, but they don't take the farmer's son because he can't walk. The neighbor thinks to himself, "Who knows what's good and what's bad?" And he realizes he's learned a lesson from a Taoist sage. Now, in this verse, 10,000 things means the entire universe we perceive. Some translation use the term myriad things, but I like the 10,000 things better. The three in this verse is represented by the two dots, or the element of change. What this teaches us is that things are always changing. We'll get into that more deeply in a minute. The two dots also mean nothing in any pair of opposites is ever pure. There's always a little bit of one within the other, and therein lies the paradox. The effect of the three are change. Let's see. It's easier to see if we just turn this on its side. From within the light half, a darkness emerges. Correspondingly, within the dark half, a lightness emerges. The black dot in the white continues to grow into proportion to the white dot in the black. And eventually things flip. What was white becomes black, and what was black becomes white. And as before, neither one of the pairs of opposites is ever pure. They're always united and relative to each other. Now, to go a little deeper into this symbol and show change, we add the element of linear time, represented by the line with an arrow. And to make this concept easier to see, I've got limited graphic skills. We open this up and simplify the shapes. I'm going to need my pointer later. And then to be able to grasp this a little more deeply, this is the same image with words instead of black and white. It shows two things. There's always a bit inside the other, that's the three things. The wave shape shows the basic pulse of everything in existence. Now you won't be able to see this very clearly or read the words, but these images show some cycles that are common to all living things. This is the pulse. This is our heartbeat as measured by the ECG. This is our breath in different forms. This is normal breathing, holding, a deep sigh, hyperventilation, and then back to normal breathing. This is our digestion or peristalsis, a series of involuntary wave-like muscles, contractions, which digest the food along our digestive tract. And notice there's always some kind of a balance. You know, it may be irregular, but it always returns to some sort of balance. The physical universe also has its pulses and waves. These are sound waves, light waves. This is the electromagnetic spectrum, and these are planetary movements. Now, we don't just have one cycle. Life would be way too easy. We have cycles within cycles. There's always a lot going on, you know, so you can't just point at something and say, this is the way it is. You have to understand that we're dynamic and multifaceted beings. Now, here's a picture that just shows that. I saw this picture and I love it. This is by Gina Hofer. It's a compilation of photographs of the moon taken at the same place every night for a month. It starts with the new moon on the left and ends with the full moon on the right. It's not a perfect waveform because this was taken from the northern hemisphere. If you were at the equator, it would be perfect. If you were in the south hemisphere, it would be slightly skewed the other way. Now, how we, Now, even though the course of a cycle, we've seen these, they look regular, but how we experience them is anything but regular. Now, here's an example we're all familiar with. It's the change in hours, the change in the number of hours of daylight during the course of a year. We start with the vernal equinox at the end on April 21st, then move up to the summer solstice. Here's the autumnal equinox. We've just crossed that. We're down in this area right here, heading toward the winter solstice, and then back up to the vernal equinox, and this repeats every year. We've been through it every year of our lives, but even so, it can sneak up on us when it starts getting dark early. How many of you have thought recently, I can't believe it's getting so dark so early? You know, and then wait till the time changes. Now, notice the shading. Just take a moment and look at that. And then I'll break it down a little bit. Basically, we don't experience any appreciable change for 8 months out of the year. See, from here to here, not much changes over the course of those 4 months. Same thing here, not much changes over the course of those 4 months. The lazy, hazy, crazy days of summertime feel like they last so long because there's not that significant change. Same thing for the cold, dark days of winter. But during the other two, there's 2 months here and there's 2 months here. Look at this. It's just this huge shift. That's why it feels like things change so quickly. Going back to the pairs of opposites and how they change with time, I've added the yin-yang symbol back just to remind us. And this example shows action and stillness. It's the same basic concept when we go through any part of a cycle, then shift to its opposite. As we head into the rising part of the cycle, here and here, first it takes a lot of effort. It can feel like we're just barely chugging uphill. But I think I can. Then things start to level off a little bit. The climb starts getting less steep and we develop some momentum. Things get easier when we start seeing more daylight. Think about the rising of spring as it turns into summer. We're enjoying the high part of a cycle. We often don't notice that the descent has already started. Then it feels like we're suddenly dropping off a cliff. Whoa, what happened here? We're tempted to try to get back to the way things used to be, but that's like running up the down escalator. Time doesn't move backwards. The only way is in and through. Now we're in the depths. It can seem like nothing will ever change. But things always change. That's because we're living in the world of form. Now many of us have experienced grace. And by grace, I mean blessings in the form that we need them most. Sometimes it's material support. Sometimes it's just feeling at one with everything. Now, grace is one of the purposes and the effects of prayer treatment. Sometimes grace comes when we're struggling. Other times, grace allows us to share generously. When we experience grace, gratitude just rises naturally. But then, being human beings, we get used to things and we can start taking them for granted. That's the challenge of having a human mind. It's built into the operating system. And there's a joke about this. There's a man who lost his keys, and it was night, and he couldn't see. And so he's searching around for his keys, can't find them. Finally, he says, "Oh, God, please help me find my keys." And he opens his eyes, and there's a little sparkle in an area where he thought he'd looked before, but there are the keys. And he's like, "Oh, never mind, God, I found them." So we tend to start complaining about what we don't have. And we forget to be grateful for all the blessings we still enjoy. And that's represented by the black dot within the white, or the small word challenges right below grace. In extreme circumstances, the pair of opposites of love and loss, we can drop into what, and so let me start that over again, because this is important. When we're in extreme circumstances, like we've loved deeply and we've lost, whether it's the end of a relationship or a passing, we can drop into what's called the dark night of the soul. This is described as the most painful and transformative thing we can experience. Been there, done that. But even when we feel like we have nothing left, there is that within us that yearns for God, and God yearns for us. That's the white dot in the dark. Even when we can't see it, and especially when we can't see it, this teaching tells us it's always there anyway. No matter what you think is going on, no matter what you've done, no matter how many times people have accused you of committing a sin, now sin just means you missed the mark. So no matter what has happened, you are no exception to the rhythm that's common to everything in existence and constantly changing. Now, this same cycle of expansion and contraction can exist without the full-blown dark night experience. I recently got a new job, and I was feeling pretty good after getting my resume together, and they hired me, and I'm just really high and excited. And then I started working, and I had to learn all these new software systems that I'm still getting used to. Boom, right down into the lack of confidence. Everything new. The work is hard enough, and then there's all these other challenges. So I just, when I notice I've gotten stressed out, the key is noticing. I just keep returning to the center and trusting that in due course the climb won't be so steep. Now, we can be feeling pretty good about our lives and humanity in general, and then there's a war or a mass shooting or something happens in our personal lives and it yanks us off our center and robs us of our peace. But even if we can't understand how things like peace and violence can coexist, there's always the white dot. In other words, whatever you're experiencing, whether you like it or not, Change is inevitable. This too shall pass. Change is the law of human experience, for only God is permanent. Reverend Gill used this quote last week, and it rang like a bell because as I was preparing this talk. It pretty much sums it up. Now, we can use the same image to help us focus our spiritual work and prayers to have the greatest effect. When we're feeling expansive and things are going well, it makes sense to offer prayers of gratitude. As things start getting more challenging, we can look for what to let go of, what's no longer needed. In an example, Tom, our balloonist, he said this isn't used on hot air balloons, it's only used on gas balloons. The gas balloons use ballast. They're basically bags of sand that are strapped around the gondola. If the balloon starts descending too fast, or it's about to land in the wrong place, the pilot opens up enough sandbags so the balloon starts to rise again. That's about letting go of our baggage. When we're heading into the depths, it's time to focus our spiritual practices on letting go. Forgiveness work, letting go of old grudges, giving up habits of mind that no longer serve us. When we do this, we start lightening up. Now, if we can't do that by ourselves, we can reach out to spiritual friends. This is one of the reasons spiritual communities like Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living are so important. It's wonderful to share the good times and the goodies in after service, but we need to have these kinds of places where people can come when they need support. Now, sometimes spiritual support is enough. Other times we need to work with trained professionals. Fortunately, society is coming around to recognize the importance of mental health care. That was one of the upshots of the pandemic, is we all realize that we really do need to work on these habits of mind. It's not that there's anything wrong with us, it's we have these habits, and we can work on adjusting our habits. Now, we're going to switch gears, and this is going into the Buddhist teaching about the Dharma wheel. Dharma means the nature of reality, or cosmic law and order. The Buddhists use the symbol of a wheel to show the cyclical nature of life. In a lot of ways, it's similar to the yin-yang symbol. There are many different teachings represented in this one image, and we're just going to look at one of them today. Now, like any wheel, when you're near the outside, the rotation is really fast. As you get close to the center, the rotation is slower, and the axle of a wheel doesn't move. Now, some of us are old enough to remember the playground spinner or the merry-go-round. They don't have them in parks anymore because they're so dangerous. Kids would run around the outsides. If you don't know this, or let's just go back in memory lane. So usually it's the guys would be around the outside pushing like crazy, making this go spinning really, really fast. Part of the thrill of this whole thing was getting really dizzy. One of the perils was vomiting, but that's another story. Some kids would hang off the edges, and feel like they're flying, and everything was great until they lost their grip and they'd be hurled into something dangerous, like the concrete, foundation of the slide right next to it, or whatever. And then other times, just for fun, people would walk into them, and everybody would go tumbling. If you're anywhere off, and if you're off the middle, or actually if you're not right in the middle but not at the edge, you would slide toward the edge. That was kind of fun, to slide and then either pull yourself back or have somebody pull you back. But if you sat in the middle, you would still rotate, but you wouldn't get nearly as dizzy. And this example shows what's called centripetal force. The more we move away from the center, the more force is experienced. Now, these spinners don't have axles, so let's go back to the Dharma wheel that has an axle. Everything except the axle represents the world we know, the world of form. Now, to see, we have to see it this way to know that it's a wheel, but the teaching we can experience if we rotate it. The manifest realm is the horizontal axis. This is everything we experience in the world of form. The axle, representing God, is ever present. When things are spinning fast and we feel out of control, we can often forget that God is there. This is what the yin-yang teaches us. We're going to forget. It's inevitable. And then we're going to remember. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's built into our human nature. It's said that the ego is an acronym for edging God out. Now, spiritual practices such as meditation, prayer, chanting, and self-inquiry, they bring us closer toward the center and closer to that which never changes. Now, spiritual practices are just that, practice. It's not one and done. Now, I understand Brian talks about myelin in his new book that I look forward to reading, but here's my understanding of it. Myelin, in the physical, we're going to talk about the metaphysical. In the physical realm, myelin is a substance in the body that groups all the nerves together so you don't have to pay attention to everything all the time. Myelin is what allows musicians like Gene to play his guitar so beautifully and naturally. I'm sure Gene would be the first person to say he wasn't born playing that well, and if he doesn't practice, he gets a little rusty. So anyone who devotes practice, the time to practice anything, will eventually let me start that over again. Anyone who develops time to practicing anything will eventually develop a certain level of proficiency. The human body, though, is efficient, and if you stop practicing, eventually the myelin will dissolve and look for another habit to reinforce. Now, metaphysically, the concept of myelin is what helps us get better at finding our center when we get knocked off balance by the vicissitudes of life. The more we practice being in the presence of God, the more proficient we get at getting back to the center. Or the more God you have in your life, the more God you have in your life. Now, meditation, prayer, singing songs that are inspiring, those are some of the practices, but it takes more than a second. There's a couple of very quick practices that we can use just to come right back to the moment. And one of them you may recognize is touching your heels together. Now, you don't have to kill the wicked witch and get the ruby slippers in order to do that. Just the thought, your mind is whirling out here somewhere, and you realize that, oh, I'm spinning. I need to come back to center. The thought of doing that brings you back a certain way, a certain amount of the way. And actually touching the heels has an energetic effect that brings your energy from your mind down to your feet. So click your heels. Yeah. Another one, we're going to have a meditation after my talk. Another one is dropping the tongue from the roof of your mouth. And we can do it together now to practice. Your tongue usually lives, if you notice, just notice how it naturally lives. It's up against the palate of the top of your mouth. And the reason it does that is to keep you from aspirating, is to keep from liquids from going into your trachea. If you do that, you choke. So that's the natural position. If you just let it drop, just let it fall to the bottom of your mouth, you'll notice a whole series of muscles. If you do it again, let it go up, and then let it drop, you can feel all the way down a whole set of muscles relaxes. And that brings, it not only thinking to drop your tongue yanks your mind back, but the physical act of dropping your tongue sends your energy downward. This quote was from the Science of Mind magazine earlier this week, suggesting what we can do about the conflict between Israel and Palestine. The promise that comes from practicing a conscious sense of union with the divine is a deep, abiding peace, even in the midst of personal or planetary challenges. We can create a spiritual chain reaction which can bring peace in the midst of chaos. That sums up what we were just talking about. I'm sorry, there was one more little thing I wanted to mention about bringing the mind back when you're especially in conflict. The great wise teacher, Mr. Rogers, says, look for the helpers. That's what, when we're in the midst of this darkness, we look for that white spot. We look for the helpers. So the message from the email, it goes on to say, we're aware of war and peace. We're aware that war and peace form the biggest paradox of all. How can we continue to know peace in the midst of war? We can unite in focusing the energy of love to bring peace to Israel and Palestine, to Ukraine and all the areas of the planet through the creation of a spiritual chain reaction. Allow the energies of peace, love, and harmony to rise up and become strong. Peace begins at the center of our own being, where instead of moving to fear, anger, or anxiety, we focus on the greater powers of love, peace, and harmony. Now, here are some images. You know, we sometimes, oh yeah, that sounds good, but I don't fully understand it. And a picture can help explain things, like I said. These are some images of the mysterious ways in which God works. You may not think that one small person can make a difference in a vast world with so many complex problems. If we think we're alone, we may be right. But God works in mysterious ways, and one of them is called the butterfly effect. The description on that is a butterfly flaps its wings in North America and a hurricane starts off the coast of China. Another way that God's love spreads is called the ripple effect. People who receive kindness are likely to pay it forward. One kind act, we never know where the results of that action are going to end up. And here's another one called turbulent flow. You experience turbulent flow when something moves through the air. Like I could flap a piece of paper here, and this is different from ripples because the effects are nonlinear. This may cause a leaf on a plant to move that causes something else to move, that causes something else to move. It's not uniform. This is the energy that you can feel when you're in a holy place. You feel the effect of the energy of people who've prayed for a long time. It's also the subtle energy we pick up on when we're around people. You know, some type of people are happy and exuberant, and that's infectious. Other times people are angry and depressed, and you're like, oh, yeah. And so instead of responding, you know, if we're excited, pick it up and, you know, if we feel that love from somebody else, allow that to spread out into our world. If somebody's angry or depressed, well, you know, maybe do some prayer treatment and allow the opposite to manifest. So now we're going to do a brief meditation. I'm going to give Hannah a moment to redirect the camera, and while she's doing that, John is going to accompany us with what's called a Shruti box. You can hold it up for the people who are in the room. It's basically, it's a device that's used in some meditations because it's one note. It doesn't change. Our mind doesn't get distracted by a melody. And so before we start our meditation, just if you have anything on your lap, just set it aside. Make sure you're sitting square on your seat. Put your feet flat on the floor. And now let's just take a moment before we drop in. Bring your shoulder blades up to your ears, and then rotate them back ever so slightly. Let them drop. And let's do that again. Bring the shoulder blades up around the ears, and this time bring your attention to the very bottom points of your shoulder blades, and imagine they're gliding down your spine and coming together as they come to their natural resting place. And just notice how open your heart area feels. And so now, feel what it's like to be right where you are. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, you can do that. If you're not comfortable, you can do what's called a yogic stare, which is an unfocused gaze about 8 feet in front of you on the ground. Or you can look at this image. Together, let's take a deep breath in. And out with it, let go of every thought of everything that's happened up until this very moment. Another deep breath in. And out with it goes every thought of anything that might happen next. One more deep breath in. And with it, the mind starts to drop from its position where it thinks it lives behind the eyes. You can let your eyes roll slightly backward, like teacups pouring their contents that flow down past your nose and into your mouth. Now drop the tongue and follow the whole series of muscles that relaxes down into your chest. And just stay for a moment in your chest. Notice the rising and falling of the breath. Notice that you're not the one doing the breathing. And just enjoy this experience of being breathed. Let the mind drop a little further to the diaphragm. It's the large muscle between your ribs on the front and your spine on the back. When it drops down, you have an inhale. When it rises up, it's an exhale. Let your mind drop a little further down into the abdomen. And notice the squeezing action of the breath on your internal organs. The repeated squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. This is what keeps everything inside of us working perfectly. Let the mind drop a little further down to your butt, where your butt meets your chair. This is one of our primary connections with the Earth's energy. Let the mind continue to flow down through your thighs, your knees, your calves, your ankles, and into your feet. And notice the contact of your feet with the ground. This is another connection with the Earth's energy. And let the mind continue to drop down through whatever your feet are in contact with, whatever's below that, and below that, and below that. Down, 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 through all of the layers of rocks and minerals, fluids and gases, down to the center of the Earth, where there's a molten core of iron that forms our gravitational field. Scientists call it gravity. You can think of it as God's love holding you, embracing you, saying, "I've got you, my love. You can count on me." And just allow yourself to bask in the holding of love. You can feel your burdens letting go. The love of God will receive anything you're ready to let go of. And will say, "Thank you." And as we continue to allow our mind, the busy human mind, to feel this holding, this embrace, you can notice there's an opening near the top of your head where you feel the experience of lightness. This is the heavenly energy descending. And just for a few moments in the silence, allow yourself to experience being the connection between heaven and earth. Now let your attention return very gently. You can wiggle your fingers and your toes. let your mind concentrate itself back into the body. If you need to remind yourself where you end and where the air begins, you can touch your legs, touch your face, touch the top of your head. And let's just experience our gratitude for all of the teachers and all of the teachings that allow us to experience ourselves in our full divine humanity. And we don't do these prayers for ourselves. We offer them out for the benefit of others and for all beings. And we know that by releasing these prayers, they're answered right here, right now, and in every successive moment of now. And for this we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Oh, it's so beautiful in here. Thank you. So now it's time to share our abundance, to share our blessings. Everyone's offerings are essential to our ministries, and we're sincerely grateful for whatever you can give, whatever the amount. For those of you joining us online, there are multiple ways to give your offerings and donations, and they should be scrolling across the screen. You can also go to our website at riograndecsl.org. Now, please hold your offering in a way that's meaningful to you and say the giving affirmation. Repeat after me. I am abundant, and I give from my abundance. I'm sorry. Slide mistake. Let's start that over so it has more richness to it. And you're not repeating after me, you're saying it with me. Sorry, I'm a newbie up here. So hold your offering and let's say together, I am abundant and I give from my abundance. I'm prosperous and I give from my prosperity. I am blessed and I give from my blessings. My blessings of spirit are as abundant as the stars, and so I give and receive generously. And so it is. Now, those of you who are here with us in the center are welcome to place your offerings in the basket. We have one on this side of the room. And while we join Jean and John in singing Turn, Turn, Turn.
I always wonder if people feel like dancing during things like this. I think in here you'd be welcome to.
Spinning around.
Yes, going around in a circle. Sufi spinning. And I lost my picks.
Uh-oh.
What did I do? Leave them over there. The guitar player looking for his picks. Usually we find them in the dryer. Lots of them. Lots and lots and lots. Oh, would you grab that pick for me, he's got behind you? You're a gentleman and a scholar. Oh, this one's perfect. Thank you. Oh, better get it in a key everybody can kind of sing in here. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time that you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow. A time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven.
Thank you so much. And Jean, while the camera is still on you, would you hold up that beautiful guitar so that everybody can see it? Look at that.
I was dating this wonderful lady, and we'd been dating for quite some time, and I helped her clean up her house whenever family was coming from all over the country, because they would sleep on the floor and the couch and the bathtub, whatever. And one day I went over to help her clean up for Thanksgiving, and she said, come back tomorrow, day before Thanksgiving, and I'll make dinner for both of us. And I told her about a piece of art I saw in a guitar store, and she remembered. So I went over for dinner, and she said, your guitar is in the other room. I said, my guitars are down at my apartment. She said, no, your guitar is in the other room. And I walked in, and there was this and the guitar strap. So I asked her to marry me.
Oh.
And we did.
Way. Thank you. So, please join me and help me bless these offerings. Thank you, sweet Spirit, for these and all your gifts. We are grateful for the provision for all of our ministry needs and more. We are thankful for the infinite abundance in the universe, for our good health, for our friends and family, and especially for the opportunity to express our love and appreciation to each other. In this moment of gratitude, we allow ourselves to appreciate the abundance and prosperity that comes to our center. Each gift and giver are blessed and valued, and we now declare that each person's peacefulness, joy, and abundance is increased 1,000-fold. Please join me by anchoring this prayer with, "And so it is." Now, like I said, we ordinarily offer prayer treatments in the prayer garden. And if you have something that's especially troubling you right now, Camilla or Marilyn will be happy to sit with, Carmela or Marilyn will be happy to sit with you. Prayers can be for something joyful taking place in your life, as well as a request for resolution of something that's troubling you. If you'd like our prayer practitioners to support you throughout the week, you can fill out a prayer request form and drop it in the box at the back table. There are pockets in front of you and some extra ones on the back table. You can also go to our website at riograndecenterforspiritualliving.org and click on Prayer Request on the top of the screen. And now I'd like to welcome Marilyn back.
What's next? It's great that we've been able to be together today. I've loved it. Please join us for food and community in the social hall. And I know that Reverend Molly made a special tart for us. And so that, do you want to say something about it?
Am I on?
I don't know.
Okay. So this is a traditional French tarte au chocolat. If you have to ask whether or not something's in it, the answer is yes, except it is vegetarian. But anyway, it allows us, if you're able, you shouldn't, don't. But if you're able, what you can do is experience the paradox of how something can be both good and bad at the same time.
I think it's always good. Also, so that those of us who are here would not feel too bad and missing out on the retreat, I made some more chocolate chip cookies, and those are in the back. And it's the DoubleTree Hotel recipe, if you've ever had those. They're pretty,
Yes.
yeah, Barbara knows. They're pretty good. Okay, so, pardon me? I did make them. So we have two big treats today. It's wonderful. And so let's see, we're going to have announcements by Brian, and then I'm going to do a benediction, and then we'll have a closing song. So, Brian, and I think we're going to have video from Reverend Gill, too. So when are you going to do that? After? No, she wants you to go first. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks.
So first of all, thanks to Reverend Molly for rocking it.
Yep.
I was in the electronics business for about 30 years, and the nature of waveforms, acoustic waveforms, electrical waveforms, electromagnetic waveforms, it's all there. It's like everything in the universe seems to follow that, and I just think it's wonderful. Quick story about cycles. I'll try and be quick. You know me, right? So years ago, as I was getting a divorce from ex number one, I got a couple of sons from a couple of exes. I met an attorney who mediated our divorce agreement, and I always tried to take the high road. He remembered that and ended up hooking me up with all of these other social service type related people. Many years later, I re-met a guy I had helped get off the street in the late 80s and helped him get off the street again in 2000. And helped him network up to Southern Oregon, where my ex and I were getting a divorce years earlier. He and I reconnected for his 75th birthday, which is like the odds of that are astronomical after you've been on the street for 32 years to have 23 years of stable life. And his 75th birthday. And on the way back from visiting him, I went to visit a woman who I knew in Oregon when I had gotten that divorce. She'd been a dear friend for 27 years. Now she's the love of my life. And all of that started from taking the high road during a divorce. So it's like cycles. Just figured I'd throw that out there. The bookstore's getting ready. Next Saturday, we're going to be getting the bookstore ready for Christmas season. In the meantime, there's plenty of really cool Christmas stuff to come and check out in the bookstore. Please check that out. I also realized we got a whole bunch of authors here. I got a book out. There's a bunch of folks here who've gotten books that are published. Today's message around the Buddhism thing is perfect from Shimon King's book, Ishbam. You might want to check that out. It's pretty darn cool. He's got a really great way of telling all the story and everything. Cheryl Ray is going to be our healer today. We got a whole bunch of folks in rotation for doing healing work. See Cheryl afterwards. Cheryl, raise your hand in case someone doesn't know who you are yet. Also want to mention, we got some new board members. Bob Kermit, Yvette Trujillo, Johanna Van Gelder are all going to be serving new terms on our board. Thank you very much for that service. Bob's going to be doing a 3-year term, and Yvette and Johanna are going to be serving 1-year terms. Glad we got some more women on the board. Save this date, December the 16th, from 6 to 9 p.m. here. We're having our soup, salad, swag, and song holiday gala fundraiser. Come on out. If you bring, it's $25. If you bring a dish, we'll cut that to $18. And it's going to be fun. Hilda's going to be there. Susan Clark's going to be there. Lots of other musical guests are going to be having some fun. Also, right now, we have only 3 people signed up for our Thanksgiving dinner. If anyone has nowhere else to go, if anyone knows anyone who doesn't have a place to be on Thanksgiving, tell them to come here. We got a whole bunch of turkeys getting cooked up. There's going to be side dishes done. It's going to be a good time. So if you're like me and don't have a place to otherwise be on Thanksgiving, show up and tell some folks about it. It's going to be a good thing. Also, join in our 2024 RGCSL Community Partnership. Now's the time. I know it's not 2024 yet, but now's the time to join. Pledge your time, your talent, your treasure, whoever it is and whatever you're here to bring to the world, bring that to RGCSL. Everybody will benefit from whatever it is you're bringing, just being you. If you join during November, before 2024 and before December, you get a $10 gift certificate from the bookstore. We have a drum circle coming up again. Our last drum circle was rather lightly attended. Please show up. It's November the 8th, 5 to 6:30 here. Jesse Kalapa, who led a couple, is going to be back. He's great. It's fun. If you don't have a drum, show up anyway. Bob usually brings a whole bunch of little percussion things, and people bring multiple drums. So if you don't have a drum or something to make noise with, show up anyway. It's going to be a blast. Love donation is recommended, requested, not insisted upon, but if you can, please do. Helps Jesse out. And let's see. Women's Circle, October 26th, 7 to 8:30. The rise of the divine feminine, which God only knows the world needs right now as much as anything. Please come for that. And let's see. Say again? It's past. Duh. When's the next one? When? We don't know? Okay, I'm sorry. It is past. I guess I've been a little busy. Anyway, time for Reverend Gill to bring his video.
Hey everybody, let's wave. Hi, greetings from
Pecos, New Mexico.
All right, so we're having a great time here. We've had wonderful things happen. This is the community retreat, the joyous power of community, cookies, and connection. And there's just one thing.
We miss you.
But there's one more thing.
Marilyn. Oh. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kamatara. Happy birthday to you. Sing along.
We're celebrating with us, everybody. Bye. Bye.
what I heard is that's a cookie, that big thing, that was one cookie. So, okay, it's my pleasure to do the benediction now. So if you'll please just close your eyes a minute, if that feels good. And with me, let's be grateful for this wonderful service. Be grateful for the great talk by Reverend Molly and how it tapped into such wonderful things. I had such great, interesting thoughts and revelations during that talk, and I know you all did too. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the wonderful music today. I'm grateful for our tech people who helped us, for Hannah, who is our stalwart, for Mike, for anybody else whose name I'm forgetting. That's the problem with naming people. I'm grateful for all the food that we have and the bookstore. And I know that all of this, what I'm most grateful for is the power of our being together, of our being strong together, and our bringing our love to the world that needs it because that's who we are. So we can be who we are. We can be love. And we bring that to the world. And that's having such a beautiful effect. Sometimes when we read the news, we don't know that. But I am grateful for knowing that our love to each other and our love to the world is bringing grace and more love and Spirit's blessing. And so knowing that as we go forward this week, please know that you are a gift to the universe, that you are a gift to the people that you are around, and that we are very much made better because of you, and thank you all for being here. Please say with me, and so it is, amen. And now we have a closing song, Let There Be Peace on Earth.
And I have the guitar turned up this time, so.
Peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. On earth, and yes, it begins with me.
There, I'm jazzed up for the rest of the week.